What is up, Waffle Gang? My name is Mark, and today we're covering some more r/am I the butthole. If you'd like to skip the initial waffle, timestamps are in the description and along the timeline below, but if you are new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. Yesterday, oh my word, I woke up this morning, done my usual routine of checking all the comments and replying to some of you guys, and then checking on the memberships, and hopefully everyone's okay there. And then I noticed, oh my word, there's a whole bunch of you that joined yesterday. Oh, thank you so much. I was almost ugly crying this morning. And I know some of you guys have been like, please stop saying thank you all the time, and but I can't stop saying it, guys. I'm just really thankful for everything you do, and I'm not going to stop saying it. But anyway, new members today are, on Patreon, we had Liz Catty. On YouTube, we had Becky Hartley, Manti, Carlotta Hall, Patricia R, No Fluffing Way, Martisa Montalvo, Katie Madden, Kerm Ernin, and Evangeline Chatters. My God, guys, how can I not say thank you to that? Thank you so much for everything you're doing for me. You're absolutely amazing from the bottom of my heart. And for each and every one of you for coming here every day to support this channel, to listen to some stories and, you know, just get involved with our community. I'm not criticizing other channels or anything like that, but I feel like we have built a little community around this sort of thing, and I'm so appreciative of it and I love it. So thank you so much. And let's get on with today's stories. Much love, guys. And our first story comes from Mama Bear, Am I the Arsehole? Am I the arsehole for saying I don't care that a little girl's grandma died? So I, 38 female, have 5 kids, all internationally adopted as I am infertile. This is in particular about one of my daughters, 9 female. I will call her Zoe as it starts with the same letter as her real name. Zoe just entered 4th grade. She's going to school in person this year. Well, one girl, I call her Kat, has been picking on Zoe a lot. I'm not one of those mums who makes a huge fuss over every little squabble. Kat has picked on Zoe for being adopted, being Asian, and started rumours that she has the virus. Every time Zoe tries to tell her teacher either brushes it off as a conflict or says that Kat is dealing with a lot and not to mind her, even though it's very hard for Zoe. I have learned with one of my older kids to document every incident of bullying that happens to my child. I just write down the date and what they say happened in a notebook. It usually turns out to be nothing. I have done this for what Zoe has said about Kat. Well, last week was the final straw. I got called by the nurse that Zoe had fallen out of a tree at recess and hurt her arm, and she had to go to urgent care. I picked her up as soon as I could. When we got in the car, she said what really happened was Kat told her if she climbed up the tree she would let her sit on the class beanbag or something like that. When Zoe did it, Kat began shaking the other end of it. When Zoe fell out of the tree, Kat ran away. When her teacher got there, she tried to tell him what happened, but he scolded her for climbing up there. Granted, he didn't know how bad it was and took her to the nurse. Her wrist was broken because I guess she tried to catch herself from falling and ended up twisting it backwards. After she was home with my husband, I marched into the school pissed off. I ended up having a meeting with a guidance counsellor and her teacher. Her teacher kept trying to call it a fight or conflict, giving them equal blame basically, or saying that she shouldn't have climbed the tree in the first place. Then he said that in the beginning of the year, Kat's parents told him that her grandma died over the summer, so cut her a little slack. I said I didn't care and she should still be punished. He seemed shocked that I said I didn't care. We have all this week off, so I've taken a little time to cool off, and now I'm not sure if I'm the arsehole for saying that. Am I the arsehole? Hopefully by now, you know how I feel about bullies on this channel, even younger ones, you know, it still affects people mentally, and it's still affecting Zoe in this way too, and she broke her goddamn wrist, man. And it's not like OP went directly up to the kid and said, haha, your grandma died, or anything like that, right? She said it to this guidance counsellor, and yes, while Kat may be suffering from this, it's no excuse to bully somewhere else, and they still need to be told. I hate it when they go down this path that, you know, bullies are the victims here, and so disregard what they're doing. It's just not on. I'm pretty sure my bullies had troublesome childhoods, but that's not my fucking problem. Don't pick on me for it, you know? So yeah, not the arsehole in my opinion, but let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Remind me I'm golden says, not the arsehole, you didn't say it to her face. Her troubles doesn't mean she gets a free pass on your daughter. They should be teaching the child empathy. Bricolia says, losing a grandparent doesn't turn a child into a bully or a racist. You spoke truth, not the arsehole. Orphan Girl says not the arsehole, the whole narrative that bullies are the real victims is a line of shit and Cat needs to be shown some consequences. Good luck OP, and I hope Zoe gets to feeling better real soon. Ronnie DeVille says not the arsehole, teacher has proven useless. Go up to the principal, and if they're useless, go up to the super etc. Just because her grandma died could have been understood for a bit, but it's been consistent, she's a racist and a bully. While a bit extreme, I'd personally also look at other schools, if possible. I Love Bread says definitely not the arsehole and you should speak to the principal right away. This is bullshit. If it were my child, that little fuckwad would be getting expelled. She could have killed your daughter. That is not normal behaviour for a child. Loxpox Mock says not the arsehole, escalate this matter up the chain. And Soy Boy Don says not the arsehole, grief does not give children free rein to torment their peers. Call a meeting with the principal or whoever the head of school is where you are and tell them that by constantly dismissing and ignoring your daughter's pleas for help, that teacher is responsible for a serious injury, which could have been much worse. Cat needs to be disciplined and the school needs to know that you'll be holding them accountable if she is not and continues to be a menace to your daughter. Now, what do you guys think OP should do in this situation? Do you think they should pursue it as far as it can go? Has any of you guys ever done that? Have you ever got to the point where you can push them so far that they will actually expel a bully? I remember me being in school, they did keep making excuses for my bullies and they never got suspended or expelled or anything. They just got away with it and made me suffer for it. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 1. And our next story is from a throwaway account. Am I the arsehole? My son is allergic to pepper. My roommate cooked with it. I now want it out to the flat. I'm a student with a roommate, Grace. Grace and I both have kids, both age 4, my son and Grace's daughter. Grace and I are friends who met while doing our undergrad and decided to move in together for postgrad. We've been living together for about 3 months. Grace and I have very different schedules. While I do a consistent 9 to 5, Grace has very erratic full-time schedule in a workplace that's open 24/7. Because of this, I do almost all of the cooking, with the only exceptions being when Grace says she'll cook instead. I don't mind cooking because I enjoy it, but also because my son is allergic to peppercorns, and I prefer to cook for him to make sure his food is completely pepper free. Grace is very aware of my son's allergy, and before we moved in together she said she would keep some pepper for her own food, but keep it as far away from my son's food, which I said was fine. However, about a month into living together, Grace made a roast dinner and the turkey she used was black pepper crusted. Thankfully, we could see/smell the pepper before we even got it to the table, meaning my son didn't eat it, but the smell of the cracked pepper made him cough. Everything was fine until a few nights ago when Grace made pasta. She used pepper, which caused my son's mouth to itch. I got my son to stop eating and got him some antihistamine, and that seemed to stop the itching, but I had to give him a second later that night as he was still in pain and his lips appeared swollen. Grace didn't realise after I'd given the antihistamine what had happened. I would have shrugged it off as it was ultimately a minor reaction, but given that this is twice now and it could have easily been worse, I am no longer okay with having pepper in the flat. I told Grace how I feel about this and she responded that as his parent it's my job to make sure he doesn't eat anything with pepper in it, and that she shouldn't have to forego something she regularly uses in cooking because of my son's allergies. I responded that Grace offered to cook for us and put an allergen into the food, knowing that my son would be eating it. Grace said she's exhausted from her work schedule and I can't expect her to remember to leave out something as common as pepper. She feels that my request to remove pepper from the flat entirely is wholly unreasonable and that I need to calm down and accept that accidents happen, and I can't punish her for a mistake. I then said that I would like to fully separate our meals going forward, meaning I won't be cooking for her anymore and she won't be cooking for my son either. To which she responded by calling me a bitch, saying that she doesn't have any time to cook for herself and her daughter every day, and that I'm being childish and overreacting to 2 minor incidents. I think I might be the arsehole because it is pepper, as in salt and pepper, and it's so common and nothing bad has actually happened yet. Additionally, due to her work hours, me not cooking for her anymore is going to take away from Grace's already limited free time. And her work schedule is ridiculous, and there's days where she only has a few hours between shifts to sleep, so this is going to cause major issues for her. Am I the arsehole / overreacting? No, I can't see you being the arsehole in this situation. I mean, you're good enough to cook for her most nights, which I find ridiculous in itself. Just because she's working so hard doesn't mean you have to cook for her every day, She's an adult too. She needs to sort her work-life balance out if that's the problem. But anyway, onto the real issue. OP says that nothing hasn't happened as yet, and that's because you were taking precautions beforehand that you don't want your son anywhere near Pepper. Pepper can become airborne, and who wants an airborne allergen around your son? It's just ridiculous, right? And I think you're sort of underreacting in some ways, that it should simply be that she leaves if she carries on down this route, or you'll leave, one or the other. I'm not sure what the financial situation is like, but you can't have that around your son. You don't want something worse to happen down the road, right? You need to take these precautions right now. So yeah, not the arsehole in this situation, but let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Poppy Siddle says, first of all, I've never had a comment blow up like this. I've tried to thank everyone for the awards individually. I apologise if I missed anyone. Chef here, to say that pepper is essential seasoning is an understatement. That said, I actually think that you are underreacting, OP. When you cook with dried peppercorns, the heat actually causes the chemical compounds in the pepper to become airborne. That's dangerous. It's why your son is coughing from the smell. He's inhaling the allergen. Also, allergies can worsen drastically over time with no warning. We've all heard stories of adults who end up in ER from a reaction that something never previously bothered them. That's how my mum found out she was allergic to mussels. It's not safe for your roommate to keep pepper in the house. It's dangerous for her to cook with it while your son lives there. Cross-contamination is also a thing. If your roommate won't make some changes, you'll need to move out. In the meantime, it's a good idea to keep a couple of bottles of Benadryl in the house and have your son's doctor prescribe an EpiPen for emergencies. Good luck, not the arsehole. And a top tip from a chef there, and I think that's really good information. Buffering Juffy says, not the arsehole, a kid should not have to fear food allergies in his own home. If your roommate is so tired she can't remember not to use one seasoning, then getting rid of the seasoning from the house is the way to go. She's being unreasonably cavalier with your son's life. And Serious Individual says, not the arsehole, you have your own job and kid that you need to attend to, which is already hard on its own. But your roommate expects you to take care of her and feed her and her child as well. Your son's allergy is deathly and very important. The fact that Grace doesn't remember or doesn't seem to care shows that she doesn't see it as such. Cook for you and for your son, and for her daughter if you feel like it, since she is innocent. Grace doesn't deserve your food. The fact she doesn't have time to cook for her own daughter shows she should reevaluate her priorities. Now, I turn it to you guys. What do you think OP should do in this situation? Tell Grace to move out, her move out, or insist that Pepper is just no longer in the house? And what should she do if she just says, no, I'm having Pepper? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 2. And our next story is from Visibly Stable. Am I the arsehole for blowing up on my mum when I found out she wasn't happy about my engagement? My mum grew up rich, married rich, trust fund baby, and has very little sense of reality. That being said, I try not to make excuses for her, because she is in her 40s and I feel like it is her fault at this point for never interacting with people outside of her bubble. I recently proposed to the love of my life, Jessica. Jessica grew up poor. She doesn't always get my mum's high society bullshit. She is never rude, but she is rugged, a straight shooter, and maybe a little crass. My mum's friends are pretty vulgar, so I know the pearl clutching on her part is all fake. I was hanging out with my cousin today, who still lives at home. His mum, my mum's sister, made a comment about, next time you get engaged, can you give me a heads up? I had to listen to your mother cry for hours. Now it's kind of a running joke in the family about my mum's tantrums, and I don't think my aunt realised what a big deal it was to me. I immediately confronted my mum and asked her why she'd been crying. She gave a kind of convoluted answer about how it sucks for her that she's going to have to see Jessica at every family gathering and holiday. And yes, I can marry anyone I want, but she is allowed to be disappointed if she has to be around her. I asked her point blank why she doesn't like Jessica, and my mum replied that she seems like she's trying to prove a point by being too masculine. I don't even know what that means, and that she is trashy. I kinda blew up over the word trashy and said I don't need her elitist bullshit. I love Jessica much more than her, and we don't have any room in our life for a snob. My mum got pissed because she said she married someone who grew up poor, and she is allowed to think Jessica is trashy. We didn't fully get to finish because my dad kicked me out of the house and said to never speak to his wife like that, and I can't step foot in the house until I apologise. I'm not planning on apologising to my mum, but the rest of my family thinks I'm a huge arsehole, and my aunt said every mother-in-law feels like this, and I should let my mum work through it instead of interrogating her and blowing up on her. And what an am I the arsehole post without a wedding post, right? Now I can see this one going between a you're the arsehole and everyone sucks here for simple reasons really, that OP went looking for that fight. They didn't have to, they could have just ignored what they were saying, and just totally just walked away. But at the same time, I think I would have confronted it too. I don't think I would be happy with my mum knowing behind my back that she doesn't like my fiance, and I'd want to know why. And you know, the mum is being super judgmental and almost elitist as well, which I'm not sure if I'd be happy with. I don't think I could just sit on that without saying something to her, even if it did come out in an argument, because I wouldn't want my fiance to be around my mother if she was like thinking that behind her back, you know. But also some of the stuff that OP says in this story almost sounds the opposite way round, the way they're judging their own mother about being rich, a trust fund baby, has very little sense of reality, which may be true, but you're judging her exactly the same as she's judging your fiance. I'm going to say not the arsehole for this, but you're very close to verging on an arsehole too, and everyone sucks here, verdict, in my opinion. But let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Sci-Fi Emma says, info, why did you ask? I think you already knew the answer. Your mother had chosen not to share her thoughts with you, which is the appropriate action on her part. So what were you hoping would happen? Edgar Rallan Crow says, everyone sucks here. Your mum has a classist and childish attitude towards your fiance and probably won't treat her with much respect in the future. You confronted your mum at the first whiff of drama, got into a shouting match and told her you don't love her. Your aunt is bowing to your mum's unreasonable attitude and excusing her immaturity. Not every mother-in-law feels like this. Your dad actually has a point. Berating your mum was not a proportionate response to her behaviour, and you should probably apologise. Dad's not an arsehole. Your fiancé bears no fault for this situation, but you should talk frankly with her about what kind of relationship you'll have with each other's families going forward. So there's different degrees of arsehole here. Both you and your mum had inexcusable meltdowns, but you sought out conflict in a way that was not productive or healthy. This is not a way to defend your fiancé from disrespect. And Wanted Eye says, low-key you're the arsehole because you went fishing for an argument when you didn't need to. You clearly already knew your mum felt some type of way about Jessica. Little pearl cushion comment. But she also was clearly making an effort to remain civil by not voicing her feelings to you all and instead venting elsewhere, which is valid. She's not obligated to like your fiancé despite however shallow her reasoning might be. And that's just something you need to accept. You pushed her for an answer you knew you wouldn't like, and then used it as fuel to blow up, which is quite frankly childish. This is not productive use of energy, to be honest. Like, rather than you and Jessica just laughing off how ridiculous your mother is and getting on with your lives, you made a big fat soap opera of a mess because you cared too much about someone else's opinion that literally didn't affect you all in any serious ways, apart from the occasional clutching of pearls. Some good points there too. But what do you guys think of this story? What do you think OP should do? Do you think they went too far? Do you think they should have just left mum alone and not said anything and just let it blow over? Or do you think they was right to confront them? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 3. And our next story is from a deleted user. Ooh, we know it's going to be spicy when they're deleted. Am I the arsehole for snitching on my brother when I found out he was planning to leave home? My 16 female brother, Mikey, 19, does a lot around the house. Our mum works long hours, so he tends to handle anything related to the house, cooking, cleaning, etc. Even before the pandemic, he had an agreement with college where he was only there 1 day a week due to some anxiety issues and slight agoraphobia. He spent most of his time at home doing his chores, studying, or helping look after our little brothers, 6-year-old twins. He and our mum do not really get along. They argue constantly. Mum thinks that Mikey exaggerates his anxiety and he's always a lot more relaxed and cheerful when he's with his friends. You'd barely know there was anything wrong with him. He tends to try and spend as much time in his bedroom as he can when she is at home. They started arguing more frequently when he was coming up to leaving school and had to start thinking about college. Mum was insistent on getting him a business qualification, and after some arguments he agreed. He tried to convince her to let him apply for a hair and beauty course, but Mum was having none of it. She doesn't want him going into something like that. Besides, if his anxiety is that bad, there's no way he'd be able to do it. So, a few months before the pandemic, Mikey starts having to go to mandatory college classes around 4 days a week. It didn't make sense as the college knows about his anxiety, but he was insistent that this is mandatory and he was coming home with a bunch of notes and stuff, so it seemed like he was going. Mum really wants him to get his qualification, so she sorted out babysitters so he could go. However, last week I heard him talking to his friends. They were talking about housing and he told them he has money saved up. I was confused and questioned him about it later. He was reluctant at first but eventually admitted that he was moving out. He'd been lying about the mandatory classes, instead working at a local care home. He was saving money to move out and had already dropped off any important documents, birth certificate, passport, etc. at a friend's house. I asked him why he wanted to leave and he told me that Mum was controlling, she's really not, and that he wanted out. He's also not interested in going into business and has been emailing several college lecturers to try and sort out funding for a hair and beauty course. I think he's doing it to wind mum up, in all honesty. He begged me not to tell her, but I couldn't help it. I told her as soon as she got home and she freaked out with him. They've been arguing a lot more than usual and Mikey is going even further out of his way to avoid her. He's been pretty off with me as well because of this. I told a couple of friends about the situation, but they seem to think I should have kept my mouth shut. I didn't want my mum to have to find out 2 or 3 weeks before Mikey left, considering he does so much in the house. Am I the arsehole? I like the way that OP says she's really not controlling in this, yet won't let him study a beauty course because he might not be able to handle it due to his anxiety. I mean, come on. He's doing a lot around the house and they don't even get on. This guy is 19 years old. He's got his whole life ahead of him and he's just being dragged down by his own mother. Good for Mikey for stepping out and doing what he needs. He needs to just cut that. I'm sorry, but he needs to just step out that family for a bit. Maybe reconcile down in the future, but at the moment they're just holding him back and it's just not on. I can't believe that OP Sen, like, he handles anything related to the house and he's looking after the little brothers, which are 6-year-old twins. Imagine having to do that. That's like a full-time job in itself, and he's trying to do his college at the same time. And just why isn't the sister helping out with that too? She's 16 as well. So she's just watching her brother do all this and then getting shitty with him because he wants out. Maybe she's feeling a bit shitty because if he moves out, she's going to have to step up and start looking after these twins. And the fact that your mum thinks he's exaggerating his anxiety. Oh dear, man, oh dear. Let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Artemisia Slay says, you're the arsehole. How dare he want to leave a terrible environment where he's expected to parent a child he shouldn't have to. Bubble says, you're the arsehole. He's chill around his friends because they aren't massive dicks to him. Good for your brother for getting out and expressing agency. Boards Dop says, you're the arsehole. Your brother wanted to leave home and wants to go out on his own. He's 19 and no one can stop him to do that. It's not like he stole your mother's money to do that. Ixod said, you're the arsehole. Why would you ruin your brother's situation if he wants out of a shitty home life? Wow, what a situation. In which there was a couple of edits too to this post, which says, I'm just going to edit here because I'm not going to explain it in every single comment. I did not tell my mum because I thought I'd have to do everything Mikey did once he left. Mum knows I will flat out refuse to do it, so she has put a couple of advertisements for babysitters / nannies and is going to try and get a cleaner if we can afford it, which we probably should be able to do. It's like, why are you refusing to help clean the house? You're 16! Edit 2, this is going to be my last edit. I can deal with people who might think I'm an arsehole, but I'm not putting up with the disgust in DMs. For the people saying my mum is abusive for shaving Mikey's hair off after he dyed it, she did warn him after the first time he bleached and dyed it. That time, she just made him dye it back. He's not being singled out either. I can't dye my hair either, and my brothers won't be able to either. It's not just Mikey. And for the people asking why I hate my brother, I don't. I love him to pieces. He always used to help me with my homework, spend time with me, and was my shoulder to cry on whenever I needed. I didn't tell my mum to hurt him. I told her because I didn't think Mike was going to give her much notice to sort out babysitters and stuff, and she doesn't need that stress right now. You lot might not believe me, but it's true. Now, what do you guys think of this story? What would you have done in that situation? Do you think the sister was right to tell the mother about this situation or not? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to vote on that poll in the description for story 4. Once again, guys, thank you very much for your support and everything you're doing for me just recently. The members joining up too. Oh, don't get me started. Thank you very, very much, and hopefully I will see you in the next one. Take care, guys. Much love.